Hello everyone, so today we're making a Brigadine. These are really popular in New Zealand combat, especially for the heavy stuff, and they're pretty expensive because they're very time consuming, and I'm going to show you why. And so what I'm doing now is I've had my canvas, double layered canvas Brigadine pattern. It's all sewn out and ready to go, and then from there I've made this paper pattern. So this is my paper pattern, and it doesn't look like much. It's basically the body chopped into about 6 layers with like a centimetre overlap for extra caution. And then what I'm doing now is this is our lovely sheet of spring steel, and I'm just transferring these paper patterns onto the spring steel. Then I'm going to cut everything out. So basically the process for a Brigadine, once you've got your pattern, you do your canvas. Once you've got your canvas, you do your paper pattern. Once you've got your paper pattern, you do the flat steel. Then we dish all the steel, add the holes, make sure they're all the same. Then we have to, chop the corners, do some housework. Then it's hardened for spring steel, and then we go back to the Brigadine, mark all the holes for punching so we can put all the nails through, and then we attach all the nails to the Brigadine. And then lastly, it's things like leather straps, and just checking that those around the neck is nice and fitting and stuff. So it'll take me about 2 days of work, and that's just for a single one. We can save time if we're doing maybe 2 or 3 at once. Because the longest process is cutting, grinding, holes, all that kind of hoo-ha. So here we go. So this is an entire Brigadine all laid out and ready to go, and it's just under half a sheet this time. One trick to remember when you're laying out your pattern and stuff is when you've got duplicates. So for instance, for my back base, I've got 12 of exactly the same plate needed. I've laid them all out, but I've also kept count. Then there's more ones sort of in the front and in the side that I only need 2 of. And then it's just making sure that you keep separate piles and labeling everything really efficiently, because when this is all cut out, you're left with random plates that might not match 100% to what the pattern was. So it's really taking the care now to vivid onto that steel to identify it, and then later on I'm going to use letter punches and number punches to actually indent the steel so that I can find those wretched plates again. If you do number punch your plates as well, in the future, if you find that your Brigadine sheds a couple of plates because the nails fall out, whatever reason, it's still got that identifier on it, so you know where it's come from. So take the time to, identify all those plates, and then in the future you'll benefit from it as well. As you can see here, I'm just labeling these. This is B2, B2. And again, remember, you've got to do left and right. So make sure at this point you label left and right correctly, and then when you're defining them again, you won't accidentally bend to left. So the next step, once you've dished all your plates, you've got them labelled, all that kind of juice, you need to take a scribe, and I've got, this is a longer edge scribe, metal scribe. And what you're going to do is you're going to set your distance, and this is my preferred. Take your scribe, and you see how it sticks off the edge? That means that, you just, makes it easier. All you do is you run down this edge, you're just going to scribe a line, and hopefully, yeah, see that line there? So what this does is it makes sure that the holes are all uniform distance. They're all in a uniform line. And most importantly, when you look at that Brigadine from the canvas side, you see all the little nail heads and they're perfectly in a row. That's because this step you've scribed all the way around. So my top plates, I do the 4 corners. I do one here, one here, one here, and one here. On the bottom plates, here, I've just got them here. So all it is, it's just a quick line across the top. And that's because I want the bottom ones to crush a little bit more, because as your thighs come up and as your belly goes down and you roll around, you need a lot more movement out of the bottom half of your Brigadine than you do the top half. So there's another tip and trick. Hi guys, so it's been a couple of days and Justin has hardened all of the plates, so now they look nice and black. So what I've got is I've got a pile of plates that don't have any vivid markings on, and this is why I went to all the trouble of marking the names and stuff. So you can see there's an F, and you can just make out a 4, and that's why I've labelled all these plates painstaking, so I know that's front 4. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to separate my pile into fronts and backs, and then I'll do left and right as well, and then I've got all my base plates in a different pile, so that will leave me with 8 separate sections, and from there we start building onto this canvas. So this is where I'm going to leave this video because the next part's tricky as well, but you can see that I've gone from canvas to paper pattern to metal pattern, and now I'm laying it back on my canvas, and this is where I'm going to start marking the holes, getting everything set out. I want lots of overlap so we're nice and safe in this one, and this is where it gets a little bit fiddly and very time consuming, so it's going to take me about a day to get this all marked out and then riveted. And with this one I'm going to start on the back at the top and then work downwards, and then I'll move on to the front and the sides, and that's more for ease of access for me. I haven't built these plates yet either because I didn't know exactly what overlap there'll be, so they're still to come. Thanks for joining me on this one. So the next step is to put everything back on the canvas, rivet it all together, and then some finishing touches, but I'll probably cover that in another one another day. Like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thanks guys.